Greetings, urban farmers, gardeners, and healthy food visionaries. Greg Peterson here, and welcome to the 255th episode of the Urban Farm Podcast, where 3 days a week we work together educating and inspiring you to become part of your food revolution. Healthy food is something everybody wants, delicious and nutritious, and right outside your own door is even better. Just text GARDEN to 44222 or visit iwanttogarden.com and you will receive our free webinar about the 7 key factors you need to know to grow your own food. On today's podcast, we have someone who knows how to use organic and natural ingredients outside of our mealtimes to help us live better and healthier. We're talking to Stephanie Tourles about natural ways to repel insects. Stephanie has practiced and taught healthy living for more than 25 years. She is a licensed holistic esthetician with a strong background in Western and Ayurvedic herbalism, has extensive training in the nutritional sciences, and is an avid organic gardener. She is currently residing in Orland, Maine, where she is the author of 12 books that include organic body care recipes, hands-on healing remedies, and naturally bug-free. All available from our friends at Storey Publishing. Welcome to the show today, Stephanie.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I shared a bit about you. Can you fill in the blanks for us and share more about the path you took to get where you're at today?
Yeah. I actually grew up, I live in Maine right now, but I actually grew up until I was about 14 in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Oh.
And I was very lucky to have a grandfather that lived on about 25 acres in North Georgia. And he grew up in very poor Appalachia, part of North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And we used to go and visit his farm, his ranch. He raised cattle and had big gardens. And so my parents, my brother, we'd go up there several times a year. And I think that my grandfather sensed that I liked to go out and explore the gardens and the woods and the streams. And I just remember one day, maybe I was 8 years old or something, and we were walking, out in the woods, and he just started telling me a story about how he grew up, and he and his mother and his other 7 siblings just walk around in the woods and the fields and the meadows and collect herbs. And they collected herbs for medicine. They didn't go to the doctor unless it was a dire emergency, you broke a bone, something like that. So they learned how to make their own medicine, their own tinctures, their own salves, cough syrups, facial products for acne. Mm-hmm. They learned medicines from the surrounding Cherokee Indians.
Right.
And, whether my great-grandmother was, intentioned for her kids to learn this or, she just had a passel of workers to help her collect, I don't know. But my grandfather absorbed a lot, and he just started passing down that knowledge to me on our walks through his property.
Wow.
So, I didn't have any other friends who had this kind of experience, and I feel so lucky because that's dying out. There aren't many elders that still have that knowledge. And my grandfather's passed now, but from that initiation into Western herbalism, that was my launch. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with the fact that nature can provide just about everything you need, unless it's a dire emergency, for your health and your well-being and your beauty. So I started experimenting, collecting all kinds of herbs, went out into the woods by myself. I was a strange child with an ID book and a notebook all the time. And and I went to health food stores back in the 70s. They weren't like Whole Foods. They were these little edgy, tiny stores.
Right.
And I took notes of ingredients on products. I would sit in the book store area there and listen to people talk. I would read. And then I started to notice, there's some people that I think there's a need for products that go on your body that aren't so full of crap, synthetic colors, fragrances, etc. And then I just started taking every class I could get my hands on. I went to aesthetic school, skincare school, and my mother also sold Avon and Mary Kay, who didn't in the 70s, trying to get that pink Cadillac,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
But I dissected everything. I learned every ingredient I could, and then I started putting things together myself to see what worked and what didn't. And then I became really good at putting together products that had the same feel and texture of their commercial equivalents. And I started writing books. I wrote down all my recipes. Anybody that would give me a body part, a face, their hair, their arm, their leg, something for me to test on, I did. So that's how I got my start. And it was because of my grandfather.
Wow.
And that passion has stayed with me. And I like to teach people all the time that you there's something natural out there that you can put on yourself instead of putting on a chemical.
And that is so important these days because the biggest organ in your body is your skin.
Yes, and people don't even realize that at all. It's just they don't even give their skin a second thought. It just covers my body. It holds my bones and organs in place. They don't think about it until they get a sunburn or a bee sting or something like that. But it absorbs up to 60% of what you put onto it. People go, how can that be? But just think, there's birth control patches, there's all kinds of medicine patches that get stuck to the skin. Transdermal penetration goes right through the skin into the muscle tissue and the bloodstream. Yeah. So think about that next time you put
stuff on you.
Yes.
This morning I was watching, I don't know, the Today Show or one of the, one of the big national shows, and they were talking about sunscreen. It's the middle of summer and putting sunscreen on it and the things that you need to make sure that the important things you need to make sure that you know about putting sunscreen on. Interestingly, and I thought, maybe they're getting a clue. None of it had to do with the chemicals in it. It was all make sure you put it on every 3 hours, so on and so on and so on.
And the appropriate amount
Exactly. They didn't even address the chemicals in it. So what do you do for sunscreen?
If I'm not going out, because the ocean's right in my backyard, and I have a few friends that have boats. If I'm not going out on the water, then, and if I'm only going to be out for like an hour, I don't wear anything other than sesame oil, unrefined sesame oil, because it has an SPF of between a 12 and a 15. That doesn't sound too high.
Wow.
But I don't go out and let myself get burned.
Right.
And if I'm going to be out for a long time, then I'm going to put on some long sleeves or something.
Yeah.
The sunscreens that I do wear have like Alba, ALBA, the brand name. They contain titanium dioxide and micronized zinc oxide, which are minerals that act as a reflector, a physical reflector, but they've been ground down so fine so they don't look like the lifeguard white stuff that they used to put on their nose.
Right.
So it's a barrier, a physical barrier that reflects the sun. Most of the chemical ones on your skin will absorb the sun's rays, and to me they just react poorly with your skin, and I think you're just asking for trouble. Moderation and everything.
There you go. I was going to say, I just cover up, put on a big brim hat and long sleeve shirts.
Nothing is going to protect you from 8 hours in the sun. That's craziness.
Right.
Right.
So. Well, thank you. I kind of detoured there a little bit because what we're really here to talk about is naturally bug-free, and this is a really important topic for me right now. I mentioned to you in our pre-conversation that Heidi, my sweetheart, got bit by a tick here in Phoenix, Arizona, in the spring of 2014, and Arizonans don't know what Lyme is. And, turns out Lyme ticks are alive and thriving in Phoenix, Arizona, and there's a lot of people here with Lyme. So, really making sure that we address, the whole picture there so that we can, naturally repel, in this case, ticks. And that's really what you're talking about in your book. And your book is by Storey Publishing. Love, love, love Storey. They're a great organization to work with, and I'm sure probably to work for writing a book. But your book is Naturally Bug-Free, 75 non-toxic recipes for repelling mosquitoes, ticks, fleas, ants, moths, and other pesky insects. And so tell us about your book.
Well, most of the books that I write have to do with skin and body care or topically applied herbal remedies. So this was a little different turn. But in my best-selling book, Organic Body Care Recipes, I have a little short chapter towards the end of the book, and maybe has 4 or 5 recipes. And I thought, well, it's a body care book. You might as well include something for bug repellent, because that goes on the body.
Right.
And it's natural. So, this book came out in 2007. And and so when that book came out, within several months, I started getting some emails, and because I get emails from all over the world, and people commenting, "Oh, we like this," or "Why didn't you add that?" or whatever. And it's always nice to read. So people were saying, "Wow, why don't you come up with more recipes, because I can't use DEET, or this irritates my children, or there's nothing out there that I feel is safe." So the people that read my book they don't want chemicals in their life, or minimal chemical exposure. So, and I knew for the longest time that every time I would spray, cutters or off or anything that contained DEET in it, mosquito repellent, within minutes it felt like I was sitting on a fire ant bed. I mean, my skin would get raised and red and prickly and itchy, and I was just miserable. So then how am I going to enjoy the rest of my day when I feel like crap? So I started experimenting and did research and thought, and I have a long experience. I'm a professional aromatherapist, so a lot of experience with essential oils, and I know their properties. And so I started to put together more formulas and tested them on Cape Cod, where I used to live. Big tick area.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, huge. You walk through the woods, you get 50 of them on your shin in no time flat.
Wow,
it's crazy.
really?
I mean, I'm serious. I mean, awful. And then when I came up here to Maine, and I just kept testing all kinds of formulas on people in my yoga class or wherever. I even attend an herb club. And so I was getting a lot of feedback. And so I just was putting recipes together. And and the book also contains flea and tick formulas for your dogs and cats, not any other animals. I don't have experience there, but dogs and cats.
Right.
And also insecticides for your home that are free of toxins. So all these have been tested. I will tell you one thing. So if you were to go through the front part of the book, which contains flea and tick formulas for humans, not every formula will work well for everybody. Everybody's body chemistry is different. So what works for a little tiny petite vegan woman may not work for a big beer-guzzling, steak-eating, barbecue kind of guy.
Right. Because
they're putting off different chemicals. So you have to have some experimentation here.
Right.
But everything is very, very safe. Unlike DEET, that chemical is not safe on the skin. It works, I'll give you that, but it's not safe.
Yeah, and at that point is which is worse for you, the DEET or the tick bite?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I just can't use it. The only time I ever use DEET is if I have to go into the woods and I'll spray it on my clothes. I won't go hiking in shorts. I just don't, not with all the ticks around here. So I'll spray it on my clothes. But I won't put it on my skin.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like the first line of defense is be prepared.
Yes. It is.
For ticks. And so what can we use for natural repellents for ticks and fleas and mosquitoes?
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you the strongest recipe that I have in my book. Strongest, yet safe. Typically, I use what's called a 2% solution, and that means 12 drops of whatever blend of essential oils that I have in the recipe per 1 ounce of base liquid.
Oh,
So it's called a 2% solution. You don't want to use anything stronger than that. Okay? And natural essential oil-based formulas do not last on your skin 2 to 3 to 4 hours like the stronger DEET solutions do.
Right.
It is not a synthetic chemical, and essential oils are volatile. That means they evaporate into the air. So every 20 to 30 minutes, you will need to respray your skin with your essential oil formula. And I say that in the book. Just keep that in mind. Natural products evaporate a little quicker. But there is a recipe that's on page 82 of the book, and it's called Lemony Eucalyptus-Geranium Tick Repellent Spray. Long name. I've got 100 some odd recipes in here. You come up with different names for everything.
Exactly.
So, but it contains 4 essential oils that ticks absolutely abhor, and that's geranium, which comes from the geranium leaf, not your scented geranium leaf, not your ornamental geranium. Lemon eucalyptus, which is a different variety than a typical eucalyptus. And then there's lemongrass and citronella. And I mix that all in with some vodka. It's half vodka and half water. Vodka helps keep essential oils in solution a little better
I figured that's
than
what
just
that was.
straight water.
Yeah.
Okay, and a little bit of vegetable glycerin, which, vodka is drying to the skin. Vegetable glycerin counters that drying effect.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a little smidge of Castile soap, either peppermint or liquid soap, either
right.
peppermint or eucalyptus. So all of that combined, and, you'd put it in a 4-ounce spritzer bottle, whether it's glass or plastic. And I have several of this exact formula around my house, out in my garden shed.
Right.
I keep one in the car. This one smells so beautiful and lemony, and it works fabulous. You can spray it on your skin, or if you go out in the woods, spray it all over your clothes, your socks, your shoes, any of the entry points for ticks, that might crawl down into your neck or something like that.
Right.
So, this is too strong for children under 6. I do have a couple of recipes in the book that are specifically for young children.
Right.
But, if you reuse something like this, spray it on their clothes. Don't drown the poor child's skin
Right.
with a natural product. It's still, essential oils are strong. It takes a lot of plant material to make that little bottle of oil. Use common sense and, keep your children covered up, whether it's linen or with a net or something like that. This is a really, really nice formula that works fantastic against ticks.
Great. So that's such a good one. Let's just review real quickly what's in it. You said a 2% solution. That's 12 drops per ounce.
Okay. So I've got a 4-ounce bottle here.
Okay.
4 ounce. So you've got, like a quarter cup of 4 ounces is a half cup. So I have a quarter cup of purified water and a quarter cup of unflavored vodka. And you don't need to buy something fancy schmancy for vodka.
Right.
Keep your Cold River or whatever it is, for drinking if you want. Something cheap is fine. But, okay, so there's 4 essential oils here. So there should be, if I did my math right, 48 drops because you've got 4 ounces, 12 per ounce. So 20 drops of geranium, 14 drops of lemon eucalyptus, 7 drops of lemongrass essential oil, and 7 drops of citronella essential oil. And then it's a half teaspoon of your liquid Castile soap, either peppermint or eucalyptus, half teaspoon of vegetable glycerin, and then your water and your vodka. Shake it all up and let it sit for an hour. Everything blends and chemically synergizes a bit.
Right.
And then you're ready to go. Always put a label on this because it smells lemony. If your little child were to grab this, they might think it's kind of like lemonade or something.
Yep.
You don't want them eating this.
Right.
So, but in every book that I write, there's an ingredient dictionary. So if someone's going through these recipes and where the heck do I get vegetable glycerin or Eucalyptus citriodora, which is lemon eucalyptus.
Right.
I have an ingredient dictionary that tells you about every single ingredient. If a substitute is available, what else you could use. And in the end of the book, there's always a resource section of all my tried and true resources of where I get everything.
Wow, that's brilliant.
It's very self-explanatory. And, if you can make oatmeal or boil water and make tea and count, you can make anything in this book.
Nice. So
it's cosmetic cooking or, bug spray cooking or whatever.
Cool. So what we were just talking about was for ticks and fleas. Does that also include mosquitoes?
Oh, that was ticks and mosquitoes. That was for ticks and mosquitoes.
Very good. Perfect.
Yeah, fleas would be in the ticks and fleas would be in the pet section. Well, the fleas would be in the pet section.
Yes, very good.
Which is in the middle part of the book. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, and I was going to ask you that because we're, Heidi and I are thinking about getting a dog. And we haven't had a dog in a long time. And, last time I had dogs was 20 plus years ago. And, back then we just, put a flea collar on them. What can we do here?
Yeah, they still have flea collars. They're not super effective. And, and that's concentrating all of that toxic vapor up around the dog's nose. And especially if it's a larger dog, a dog over 20 pounds or so, all of that vapor, it's not going to reach the tail end of the dog. So it's not doing a heck of a lot of good. I mean, I know they've improved, but they're still full of chemicals. Yeah. And sometimes the neck can get very irritated. Or you can go to the vet and buy those drops, those little spot-on things where you snip off the tip and then run it down their spine, which I don't like.
Right. It's chemicals again.
And those are, yes, they're full of permethrins. And if you look on the back of the package, it says, make sure you part the animal's fur and get it right on the skin, but keep it off of your skin.
Right.
Because it's toxic. And that just, no.
Don't do that to your dogs.
No, or your cats. And a lot of them will salivate or bite a spot raw or what have you. So, having outdoor pets is one of the ways that you bring ticks into your house. I have indoor cats, so I don't worry about that.
Right.
But people, I have an older friend, and she's got a big, what do you call those things? Great Dane. Great Dane puppy, and 100 pounds at 8 months old. He's huge. But she's gotten 3 ticks, 1 tick a week for 3 weeks. And I was like, what are you doing? But she goes down to the beach. The dog runs all over all the tidal grasses and everything, and then brings them into the house and on the sofa and on the bed, because the dog sleeps on the bed. So if you have pets, make sure you brush them every day. Every day or twice a day, especially during tick season, and vacuum your house often. So I have powders that I make, herbal powders that I make for my cats. Even though they're indoor cats, occasionally they will get fleas, because I do have them leash trained, so I'll walk them out back for about 5 minutes a day. But one of the best powders you can put on your animals
Hold on, let me guess.
Okay.
Diatomaceous earth.
Oh, very good.
Oh, good. I passed. We use it on our chickens.
Very safe.
Yeah, we use it on our chickens.
Oh, good. Okay, excellent. Yeah, a lot of people do that too. It has to say food grade on the bag. You do not go to your local pool supply place, because that's got something toxic in it. But diatomaceous earth is not earth, so to speak. It is actually made from single-celled diatoms, which their shell, they're practically naked to the you can't see them really, but they deposit into 100-foot deposits in different places on the earth, whether it's saltwater or freshwater, and they're harvested, excavated out, it's dried, little white powdery clay that you can get like at the hardware store, and it's about $10 for 4 pounds or something. And the silica, which is what makes up the diatom shell, acts as when you put the powder all over the animal, totally non-toxic.
Right.
But when a flea or a tick ingests even a tiny bit of that powder, because of the silica is a very sharp mineral, it will dissect the innards of that insect, and it will dehydrate their exoskeleton. So I know it sounds horrible, a slow death for the flea and the tick, poor things. But it's a safe way to kill them and to keep them off the pet.
Yeah.
And you can also take diatomaceous earth and put it in a little, like a quart-sized canning jar, poke some holes on top of the canning jar, and get down about 4 inches away from your carpet in the house, and sprinkle lightly everywhere, and leave it 24 to 72 hours, and then vacuum it up, and the fleas will be dead and the ticks will be dead if they're in your carpet.
Oh.
But apply this to your animals 2 or 3 times a week during flea season. And if they lick their fur, no problem. They're not going to get sick. Actually, if they were to ingest the diatomaceous earth, the cat or the dog, it acts as a dewormer in their system, because it desiccates any parasites they have in their body. So good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, and it doesn't smell. It doesn't have it has no odor.
Right. Exactly.
Really safe.
Cool. So in thinking through your book, we only have another few minutes here, and there's so many things I want to ask you. In thinking through your book, what is one fascinating or really cool thing that you want to share with people about it?
One of the reasons I wrote it is because it's safe and they work. And you're not going to get sick, and you don't have to worry about, oh no, I have to run in and wash this DEET off my skin, like it says on the back of the container of off spray. The sprays evaporate off your skin. They're not going to burn you. They're not toxic. If you inhale them, you're not going to get sick. Your animals are not going to get sick. They're not going to bite themselves raw, or their life's not going to be shortened because they're going to get cancer or tumors or something else. And everything in here is safe for the environment.
Yeah.
The chemicals in the foggers, there's places in Florida or other parts of the country where they'll drive up and down in the evenings with these fogger trucks to kill all the mosquitoes. What the heck? I know they were doing that last year with all the Zika outbreaks. That stuff, nobody needs to breathe that in. I understand. Nobody wants to get sick from the bugs either, but to me, try a natural approach, and that's what I'm all about. And I want to teach people that try something natural first. Okay? It's up to you. You're going to a tropical place for vacation. Mosquito-borne disease is just rampant. That is your choice, whether to use DEET or to use something natural. If you're going to use DEET, please spray it on your clothes. Or at least make sure you wash it off when you come in. Follow the instructions. And another thing I don't like about DEET is if you read some of the small print on the back, it will tell you not to spray it on clothes that have man-made fibers in them.
Oh, yes.
Lycra, spandex, because it dissolves and breaks that down. If it's breaking down fibers, what the heck is it doing to your skin?
No kidding.
Anyway, just try something safe. Choose a plant before you put a chemical on yourself.
Yeah.
Good for you, good for the environment.
Right. Amen to that. So I'm going to shift on you, and I'd like for you to talk about a time you failed, how you overcame that failure, and what you might have learned from it.
That is a shift. Okay. I actually don't like the word fail.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would call that maybe a time, instead of failure, it's a time that I didn't quite achieve the goal I'd set for myself.
Exactly.
Or failures are learning experiences. Yes, they're disappointing, but they're learning experiences. So I guess it's kind of humorous, but it wasn't humorous when it was happening to me.
Of course not.
So this was, I don't know, maybe I was in my late teens, 20, something like that. So I was learning to make natural skincare products. I was still experimenting a bit, and was trying to make this experimental facial mask for an older coworker. So I mixed some white powdered clay and some plain yogurt, and I squished some fresh blueberries I'd picked out back. I was living in Georgia, so I picked them out of the woods.
Right.
And, I didn't know anything about antioxidants. I just knew that blueberries were good for you. So I thought, well, I'll squish the juice and stir it up. So that was this blue facial mask, and it's supposed to make your skin soft and refined. So I asked my coworker, I said, can I put this on you? It was at work, after work.
Uh-huh.
And let it dry for 20 minutes. Well, she looked like she was ready for the morgue. It had dyed her skin blue.
Blue.
And
that's where I thought you were going.
Weird, pale blue.
Yep.
She looked sick. And but about 24 hours, I was very upset, and she wasn't real happy, but she was kind of laughing. In 24 hours, it had faded. But so the moral of that story is you eat your blueberries, you don't rub them on your face.
Right.
So,
exactly.
but I was learning, I was writing, I was making formulas. So, but it was little failures like that when you are becoming a kitchen cosmetologist happen all the time, but you perfect from your failures.
Perfect. What do you consider your biggest success?
Probably that I've written 12 books, and I'm just finishing the editing on a 13th book, which will be a beginner's guide to essential oils for home health care. It's coming out next year. Yeah, so, but I've written 12 rather successful books since 1994, after taking 10 years to initially find a publisher. So that was like 10 years of, oh my gosh, feeling like I was failing or learning or getting discouraged, and then finally getting a letter from the publisher saying, hey, we're really interested, after rejection, several rejection letters. 40 rejection letters over 10 years, to be exact. Yeah. And during this process of going on book tours, I have finally learned to comfortably speak in front of 400 to 500 people when I would take an F in high school English class instead of having to get up and do an oral report.
Oh my God, that is so funny, because I flunked speech class in high school. Oh. Because I refused to get up. Now I too speak in front of hundreds and even thousands of people. So
yeah, and you're doing what you're doing. So and I speak all the time. So total flip flop of life.
Right. Yeah,
amazing.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that I want to call you out on, this is a good thing, not a bad thing, is that Winston Churchill said, "Never, never give up." I think it was Winston Churchill. That's coming from my memory. And you didn't give up on your books.
No, I didn't. And even had an ex-husband who kept saying, "Give it up, give it up, give it up." Yeah. And I didn't listen. So my father said I never listened to anything. So.
No good, because that's really important lesson for everybody. It's like if you know you're supposed to be doing something, like teaching people about this, don't give up, because now look at the difference that your work does in the world.
Yes, I know that. I've always felt my grandfather's spirit was, I was given that oral tradition for a reason, and I wish he was still alive, but I know he looks down from heaven. He can see what I've done. So,
exactly. Yeah. So what drives you?
Well, on that note, teaching people. I enjoy teaching people about how to live their healthiest life and also how to retain extremely youthful skin, until they're 80 or 90 years old. Yeah. And I honor my grandfather every time I teach people about the benefits of herbs. Yeah. That's what drives me, is what he started teaching me.
Yeah, epic. That is, I love those kinds of threads in the stories that we tell on this podcast of, there's a connection back generations and decades that just still inspire you to this day.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Until the day I die.
Con-
Yep. I love talking to people about plants and the benefits of plants.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks.
So if you could recommend one book for our listeners, what would it be and why?
Oh, okay. I have this big, fat, tattered herbal book. It is called The Book of Herbal Wisdom, Using Plants as Medicines, and it is by a famous herbalist. He lives out west. I think he used to live on an island. His name is Matthew Wood, Wood. And it's just an amazing book. He talks about 40 herbs, so he doesn't cover a ton of herbs, but he tells you known and little known uses for these herbs, things, even an experienced herbalist like myself, I'll be flipping through and, seriously, I've never heard of this, and he goes on and tells stories about it and how he's used it and how herbal elders that he has, been with and the uses that they had for it. He delves into Western and Chinese and Native American traditions for all these herbs. So, you can read about, say, Solomon's seal, which is one of my favorite herbs, and in the 10 pages he devotes to it, you might learn 10 more things that you never knew about it. So it's just a in-depth book full of ancient wisdom about herbs. Wow. Awesome book.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what one final piece of advice will you have for our listeners?
We've probably covered some of that, but it's about skin, because every class that I teach, whether it's books for herbal aphrodisiacs, books on making natural perfumes, natural powders, topically applied herbal remedies, skincare, whatever it is, mostly what I write about gets applied to the skin one way, shape, or form. So just don't forget that your skin lives and breathes and eats. It secretes, but it also absorbs.
Yeah.
So put only pure products on it. Don't shorten your life with some questionable chemical. And we hit on the other thing is, if you have a dream, don't let anybody ever tell you that you'll never attain a goal that you've set. It may be difficult, but, forego those naysayers and aim for the stars, I always say. So it's just keep your eye on the prize. You'll get there someday, or maybe there'll be a tangent that you didn't know existed, and you'll go, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Right. And that's how epic things get done in the world. That's how we change the world right there.
That's exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Stephanie.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. How can our listeners get a hold of you?
Okay, I have a beautiful, just redesigned website. It is StephanieTourles.com, so StephanieTourles, all one word, StephanieTourles.com. And from that website, they can go to my Facebook page, my blogs, find out where I'm speaking, events that I'm teaching, all kinds of things. And it's a beautiful herbal website, very pretty right now.
Excellent. And her book, Naturally Bug-Free, 75 Non-Toxic Recipes for Repelling Mosquitoes, Ticks, Fleas, Ants, Moths, and Other Pesky Insects, is available all over the place out there. You can also find show notes from today's podcast at urbanfarm.org/natural bug-free. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us on the Urban Farm Podcast. Do you want to save money at the grocery store, eat more organic, whole foods, cultivate food security, and feel more connected to the earth? If so, then growing your own food is a no-brainer. You wouldn't believe how many people come to me claiming that they can't grow their own food. They think they don't have enough space, that they're too busy, or that they simply don't have what it takes. Perhaps you've fallen for one of these gardening myths. If you think you can't grow food, or if you think the only food that you have access to is what you buy in the grocery store, I have a life-changing webinar that you need to see. It's free and will help you unearth your inner gardener. I've helped thousands of people just like you learn to grow their own food, and I'm speaking from my own experience when I say that with the right knowledge in place, there is no such thing as a black thumb. With this webinar, you can begin making your garden dreams come true and start growing delicious, nutritious food for your family. Just text GARDEN to 44222 or go to iwanttogarden.com and you will receive our free webinar about the 7 key factors you need to know to grow your own food. Remember, that's garden to 44222 or iwanttogarden.com.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Urban Farm Podcast. Remember to listen 3 days a week for tips, advice, and resources to help you on your journey with urban farming. You can find us on the web at urbanfarm.org or send us an email to podcast@urbanfarm.org. In the words of Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Be encouraged that with each lesson learned and skill developed, you are one step closer in the direction of your dreams.